Hello and welcome to Fashion Report Friday, the weekly video series trying to get you the most MGP possible from the Mandeville Gold Saucer every week on a Friday when judging begins. This is week 343, and as you can see, the clue is Let Sleeping Guns Lie. Individual item clues include Rest and Relaxation for our helm, Son of a Gun for our chest, Coiled Finally for our gloves, and Rest and Relaxation for our legs. So we've got two clues, pretty much the same. So that's going to be pretty much giving away some of the items for this. In this video, we have a 100 score as well as a 80 with dies and an easy 80. So let's get to that 100. For the 100 score, as you can see, I've gone for the Crescent Moon Cone. You can also go for the Crescent Moon Nightcap as well. Those are the only two items that most people are aware that work this week, myself included, for rest and relaxation. They are both Weaver recipes, so if you have these already, then you're going to be good. But obviously crafting these isn't too difficult, but the market board might be quite expensive at the moment because people will see that it's for Fashion Report and try to sell it. But that's for the helm. Then for the chest, I went for the Anemos jacket, which can come from the Eureka Anemos lock boxes specifically. So that's a good option. Alternatives to that include the Gayuki leather jacket, which is crafted or from a vendor. We've got the Ivelician Fusiliers jacket as an option, which is from the Royal City of Rabanasta raid. And I think the Gargana skin jacket of aiming works as well if you want to lock yourself to aiming. So those are all good options. The Anemos jacket is one that's equipable by classes level 1 and above, which is the sole reason I went for this. Additionally, we've gone for the replica Dreadworm gloves of casting. They can be any normal Dreadworm or replica Dreadworm gloves for any role in the game, so you're not locked to a specific one. Obviously, you can go into the final coil of Bahamut and actually get the gloves from there for whatever role you want to use, or you can actually craft or buy from the market board the replica versions, which will give you gold rating just the same. And then finally, for our legs, I went for the Wind Silk bottoms. This is a Weaver recipe with this familiar tartan pattern. A lot of people use these. This is accessible by everybody level 1 and above. And you can get it from a market board as well if you can't craft it. There's the Ruby Cotton bottoms that will also work for this slot, which is vendor purchased. We've got the Extreme Survival slops, and additionally the Spring bottoms from Kasumi, the vendor right next to where we are. For cumulative Fashion Report scores, will actually sell you this. You need over 600 points in total, so 6 weeks at 100 score minimum, basically, or over time less than that. If you've been doing 80 scores, you should be able to see on Kasumi for 8,910 gil those bottoms. But because everybody not necessarily will have those, I went for the Wind Silk bottoms. And that's pretty much the 100. Not too bad, and there are certainly things we can learn from this. Let's move on to the dies. For the dies then, as you can see, to get an 80 score, what we have gone for is Loam Brown on any weapon, any chest, and any feat in the game. Loam Brown is a crafted die, or from the market board if you'd rather. We've got Pearl White on any helm in the game. That's Sky Builder scripts, 500 of those, or obviously the market board. We've got Gunmetal Black on any gloves in the game, which is another 500 Sky Builder scripts, or again from the market board. And then we've got Shadow Blue on any legs in the game, which originally came from a Sahagin tribal vendor for over 300 gil. But of course, you can also get that on the market board if you would rather. The dies aren't particularly great though, but one thing we have learned is there's a lot of very easy to access brown there, which means we can use some of that knowledge for the easy 80. So one of the first things I would suggest actually, if you've done Fashion Report multiple times, is to go to Kasumi, enter the boutique and purchase yourself the actual legs from here, the spring bottoms. Again, this is something not everyone will have access to. This is just one of the easy 80s. If you do have access to this, if you have done cumulatively 600 plus points on Fashion Report over many weeks, you can get the spring bottoms for 8,910 gil. These are especially good because they're vendor purchase accessible to anybody who has done that prerequisite, and of course level 1 and above. So this is one of the options. Alright, and then a mixture of the spring bottoms with some dyes, and I managed to get an 80 quite simply, just cutting close there. But essentially what we did is we got the spring bottoms, and then I've dyed them any blue dye in the game. So I went for a vendor purchase dye, I went for sky blue. Any of the vendor purchase blue dyes should work. Sky blue specifically are giving us a little bit of extra points there on our legs. Then we've gone for bark brown, which is, again, we had lone brown as the best in slot dye, but bark brown is a vendor purchase dye for 40 gil a pot. So we've put any chess piece in the game, it doesn't matter what it is, we've dyed that bark brown. And we've also done the same with our feet. Any feet in the game dyed bark brown as well. So we've got bark brown on any feet. We've got the spring bottoms dyed sky blue here. We've got any chess piece in the game bark brown. And then I've dyed any helm in the game snow white, because the best in slot dye would be pearl white. Snow white is a white dye, therefore we get a +1. And so instead of getting a 79, we get an 80 for that, which isn't too bad, honestly, cutting it a little bit close. But this, I think, is probably one of the most accessible ways of doing it, but it's going to rely on you actually, having Fashion Report done to the point where you've unlocked the items on Kasumi. So let's move on to an easy 80 that isn't requiring you to do that. For a free trial player, you might be wondering, is there any way I can just combine some dyes and one item that I can get accessible from, somewhere that I can do within the free trial limit? So obviously at level 50 we have access to the Coils of Bahamut. So if you have gone through that on your free trial, or perhaps you are currently a free trial up to level 70 at the moment, you could go and unsynchronize the Coils of Bahamut. I, in this instance, have used the replica ones because my alt here doesn't have access. I didn't go and unlock the coils. But obviously you could go into the final coils and get that as a drop and use whichever drops, and then that would work for a gold slot, right? So that's one of the more accessible to a free trial, because all they have to do is do an unsync version of an old raid, which they're well above. At the end of a free trial at level 70, you can easily do that on your own. With no problem at all. And then what we've done is we've combined that with some dyes. So I've gone for any weapon in the game that's dyeable. I've dyed that bark brown, any chest bark brown, and any feet bark brown. Bark brown is a very affordable, cheap dye from an NPC dye vendor such as Nanabe in Uldar's market district. And then on any legs in the game, we've also gone for sky blue, which is another vendor purchase dye. So all of that is pretty accessible. I tried to find something that, a free trial would have access to that they'd probably have no problem with, such as, the coils being unsync, unrestrictable. So that's not too bad either. And then finally, the other way of doing an easy 80, obviously a lot more than an 80 there, is combining any two items from the 100 we showed earlier. So in this instance, I've got the Crescent Moon Nightcap, and we've mixed that with the replica Dreadworm Gloves of Healing. So that would work. We'd have exactly the same result if we got the Crescent Moon Cone and combine that with, I don't know, the Animos Jacket, for example. That would work as well. Basically any two items would work, but I've given you plenty of options there. I think it's not the most straightforward of weeks. There isn't two items that you can purchase from a vendor specifically that would work together to get an easy 80, unfortunately, whereas sometimes that is the case. It is not the case this week. Anyway, hopefully that was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. A link to the Reddit thread where this is theorized each and every week by the community will be posted below in the description. Go give it some love. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for another week. And hopefully you're enjoying the streams and the YouTube content. More to come. Much love, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.